Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our Monday session here at Namaste Village as we enter into the Namaste experience. I love saying that because it reminds me that this is an experience to enjoy, not a concept to figure out. It's not something for us to get, but something that we allow to get us and to receive. And that's why we start the meditation with just being present to that sacred presence that is always present within us. So that's where we're going to begin today. That sound good? Let's begin with our great declaration. Here we go. Okay, join me in this. I choose to know that I am infinite spiritual consciousness embodying all goodness, all grace, and the eternal glory of God. Say that line one more time. I choose to know that I am infinite spiritual consciousness, all grace, and the eternal glory of God. This is the song I will sing, the sermon I will preach, the lesson I will teach. And until full realization comes, this is my theme, my motif. It is the silver cord of truth running through every message I deliver. Amen, and may it be so. That first line, I choose to know. Capitalized know, not believe. I'm not here to choosing to believe something. I want to know it. When we believe something, it's a mental pursuit. I want to believe it in my mind. That won't get you very far. We're here to allow that to sink into our heart, that place of true knowing, that we can know that we are loved, that we are loved, that we are lovable, and that love is all there is. So today we're going to begin with another quote, because that came from an adaptation of a quote from Joel Goldsmith. And I want to begin with another quote about listening deeply to that knowing. Here it is. Our listening attitude makes us receptive to the presence and the power within us. Our listening attitude makes us receptive to the presence and the power within us. Our periods of silent contemplation reveal the infinite force and constructive energy and intelligent direction always abiding in us. That intelligent direction that's always abiding within us. This is what we're here to reveal, to allow, and to know. So with that in mind, I want to share a couple of stories that I remembered that came into my consciousness in two different conversations that I had with people over the weekend. And these two stories are going to converge into what we just heard from Joel. The first story is about a dear friend of mine named Sandy Satterwhite. Sandy was my first literary agent way back. She was the one who, when I was still living with Vicky, this is back in 1995, and I had just finished writing Emissary of Light, and there's a bookstore that was right around the corner from a little spiritual meditation center that we had, a little Course in Miracles center. And right around there corner, there was a bookstore. And so I just written this book. I had no idea what to do with it. I felt like it had some real energy. And I was in that bookstore and I was talking to someone about it, saying, I don't know what to do. Do I get an agent? Do I approach publishers? And when we went up to the counter, the woman behind the counter said, she asked me more about the book, and then she said that she has, her best friend is a literary agent, and this is the kind of book she loves. And Get me a copy, I'll give it to her. Her name is Sandy. So I gave this woman, whose name was Kathy, the manuscript. She gave it to Sandy, and Sandy sold it the next day. She was so excited. It took me 2 weeks to write the book, 2 days to sell it. Pretty big miracle. And Sandy became a dear friend, and ultimately she and her sister moved from Boston to the West Coast in Southern California. And a few years into their stay there, their parents, who were back in Boston, the mother had, I think it was a stroke. And so she was in the hospital. So Sandy and her sister flew back to Boston and were with her mom and hoping that she'll recover. But then the doctor said, there's no way she can leave, but she can't stay in the hospital. We need the beds. We're going to have to move her to a long care facility. Hope it didn't sound like I said lawn care. Long care. Not a lawn care facility. That sounded funny. No, not a cemetery. So she is going to be sent to a nursing home. And Sandy had promised her mother that she would never send her to a nursing home. It was a thing her mom was most afraid of. And so she couldn't be there when this happened. So she and her sister both booked tickets to fly back to Los Angeles early in the same morning that their mom was going to be moved from the hospital into the nursing home. So they were up probably 4 a.m, getting ready to leave for the airport, when they received word that their mother had passed. So clearly they didn't leave on that airplane. And that airplane, a couple of hours later, went into the side of the World Trade Center. Somehow, their mother heard. She heard something. What does Joel say again? The intelligent energy, direction that is always abiding within us. Our listening attitude makes us receptive to the presence and the power within us. Somehow in her state, she heard clearly. And in giving her own life up, she saved the lives of her 2 daughters. Isn't that interesting? One more similar story. This is a story about a dear friend of mine named Tara, who lives in Ashland, Oregon. Tara is actually the second daughter of Neil Donald Walsh. And Neil, in case you don't know, has 9 kids, all of whom are very close friends. But Tara is definitely one of my dearest friends. And Neil's first wife, he had 2 daughters, and then he had 7 sons after that. So his 2 daughters, Tara and Samantha, and their mother lived in Annapolis. I think it was Annapolis, somewhere in the East Coast. And Tara had always wanted her mom to move out west to Ashland to be with her so she could take care of her. Finally, she talked her into it. And after an enormous effort of getting everything sold and packed up on the East Coast, their mom moved out to Oregon. And within a couple of weeks of being there, discovered that she had stage 4 lung cancer. So clearly this was not what was planned or hoped for, but they began to make preparations for what would come next. And when things had developed to the point where they knew there was only a few days left, one morning Tara's phone rang and she answered it. I think it was her mom's phone, but her mom was taking a nap, and so she answered her mom's phone. And it was a man, and he was asking some questions, very personal questions, and she finally said, I'm not going to say anything more until you tell me what this is all about. Now, I should say beforehand that there are 2 things that Tara and Sam's mom always wanted. Number 1, to have grandchildren. Neither Tara nor Sam ever had children. The other thing was that when she was much younger, she had become pregnant, and she had a daughter who she never met because she gave up for adoption. So her second wish was always to be able to meet her daughter. So now this man calls. And Tara says she's not going to say anything more until he explains. So he explains that he is a private investigator. He was hired by a woman who lives on the East Coast, and they've determined that Tara's mom is her mother. She is this adopted woman child that was put up for adoption. And the man says that she really would like to meet her mother and wants to know how she would feel about that. Because I know Tara, she became very emotional, crying and said, yes, 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 but she has to come now. And she explains that her mom is right on the edge. So the next day, I think it was, this woman, not only the daughter, but her husband and 2 grandchildren show up in Ashland, Oregon. And days later, all 3 of her daughters hold her hand as she dies. Our listening attitude makes us receptive to the presence and the power within us. Our periods of silent contemplation reveal the infinite force and constructive energy and intelligent direction always abiding in us. So what do these 2 stories, the story of Sandy's mom and Tara's mom, have to teach us? They were both in a deep state of listening and hearing and responding. They were both right on the edge of their earthly life, shifting into a greater expression. And somehow in that space, they were both able to hear and activate. In Sandy's mother's case, she somehow knew, she heard the prompting of spirit within us and knew that she had to surrender her own life in order to save the lives of her 2 daughters. She knew somehow. And in Tara's mom's case, she somehow felt the energy of this long-held wish come to fruition and was able to then draw the conclusion, the fulfillment of being able to meet her daughter and to finally have grandchildren only days before she would shift. So what does this say to us now? Are we willing to be that still? Are we willing to be that quiet? In A Course in Miracles, we're on a day where there is a review, and one of the review lessons is, in quiet, I receive God's word today. In the stillness, I hear that voice, speaking to and for God. But in order to hear that, I have to come to that place of such profound opening that my whole mind is activated. Not whole mind with small w and small m, but whole with a capital W and M with the mind with a capital M. My whole mind, that which is one with all, that which is fully activated this and every moment. Through my whole mind, I hear and receive perfect direction. And when that happens, there are 2 statements that I will activate and live and allow. The first is, I know what I know, and that's all that I know. This is a statement of the whole mind. You can call it the enlightened mind, call it whatever you want. But it's your mind, when it knows and is activated, its wholeness, its oneness, its truth. I know what I know, and that's all that I know. And know is capitalized. I know this. I don't believe it. This doesn't say I believe what I believe and that's all I believe. No, it's what I know to be true. It is a higher activated reality within me, a knowledge that is beyond this world. Sandy's mom and Tara's mom had access to a knowledge that was beyond this world. And she listened, they listened. And this knowledge is present within us, just waiting for us to hear, to listen. There's one more statement that comes from this whole mind that can be activated in us right now. And it starts with I am. My favorite words, the two most powerful words in the universe. I am what I am, and that's all that I am. That's all that I am. Just feel both of those statements. I know what I know. And that's all I know. And I am what I am. There's nothing more. That's all that I am. And I embrace that now, and I choose to see that now. I choose to give that away as a gift to everyone that I meet right now. And in doing so, I will hear that quiet voice that's within me. From Joel, one more time, hear this. Our listening attitude makes us receptive to the presence and the power within us. Our periods of silent contemplation reveal the infinite force and constructive energy and intelligent direction that's always abiding in us. So this is the moment we choose, because it's the only moment we can choose. This is the only moment there is to choose. To choose to be awake, to choose to be fully realized, fully known now. And so with that, I'm going to welcome our dear sister, Victoria. Vicky, if you are there, it is time to unmute and lead us in.
I'm right here, Brother James, but I don't have a picture. I'm invisible today. The computer did. I know so little about them, but it just all of a sudden shut my picture down. So here's my voice. So this is my voice in the central telephone system that we all belong to, the central system of sound and listening. And the thing that I would remember as you read Joel's quote, as we listen for that divine, the voice of the divine, to remember that, and I'm learning this, having this downtime the last week or so, that we must listen to ourselves and listen to all the sounds or the songs or the hurts or the murmurs without judgment. Because as we let everything in without judging it, and whatever they are, good thoughts, bad thoughts, without labeling them, they're just thoughts. And those thoughts that have no roots in the I am that we are fall away. And those that have root in that I am awareness, they deepen and they move into our awareness so that we welcome them and can enjoy them. But all those thoughts, wherever we are, it starts with listening, and listening starts with the willingness just to be ourselves without a label. And that becomes freedom, because we're not hostage to thoughts we try to throw away or repress or think we shouldn't have. So in listening, we listen and welcome everything. The voice of that little child in us that sometimes is not so aware or in that divine consciousness. But in welcoming it and allowing it in, it allows it to pass. And then whatever it's been covering up, that greater awareness of ourselves as part of this, part of God, literally, and part of each other, then those prompts and impulses, they arise as sweetness, as happiness, as synchronicities, as coincidences, as ways to move and take the next step in our life without trying to figure it out. It's a way that we live being taken care of and not figuring it out and resolving it on our own. It's the end of us figuring out our lives. And it's the beginning of our welcoming that divine presence in us that we share, that one presence to just take us and lead us as our natural next step. It becomes self-evident, just like it was for the two sisters not to get on that plane. It becomes self-evident what our next steps are. But we have to clear the hearing with our willingness to listen to what are our own thoughts, what seems to be ego thoughts, seem to be fear thoughts, seem to be thoughts of sickness or anything else. Without a label, they're just thoughts. And when we don't hold on to them, they just start to dissolve. And that's the gift that we bring to ourselves and to each other, so that the listening of who we are, that song of spirit that's singing itself to us, is always singing, and it's been waiting for us to welcome it and allow it. And our next steps are the effect of listening, not our figuring anything out. So those are great examples, Brother James, great examples. And I know we all have great examples. I don't think I've ever moved into a passage in my life where I didn't have this time out to really listen, to step back and then see that I'm taken and carried over these thresholds of where to go next or what to do next. But it starts with the willingness to listen to ourselves and let those thoughts that are not true fall away, not try to figure them out or judge them. And then the listening becomes our part of playing our part in this orchestration, in little sacred circles wherever we find ourselves, of love and happiness and joy and playfulness and kindness. So those are my thoughts, Brother James. Here from Invisible Land. I hope my computer works tomorrow. Teddy's computer, as you can see.
I'm sure there's just one little switch. And
I'm sure there is somewhere.
maybe just restart the computer. That always helps.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you, Vicky. Yes, for the I am to take root. Jesus talked about throwing seeds onto different types of land, rock, good soil. If you throw the seeds onto rock, it never has a chance to take good root. But if you throw the seeds, and these are all seeds, if we throw them onto good soil, they take root and they grow and they establish themselves. So we want the truth to be fully established within us. Actually, that's not a good way of saying it. A better way to say is the truth is already established within us, and we're here to simply realize that, to remember that, to allow that experience, that knowing with capital letters. I know this to be true. What are those two statements again? I know what I know, and that's all that I know. And I am what I am, and that's all I am. Maybe just let one or both of those lines move through you today. And realize that this is God's gift to you every moment. The divine is always longing to speak through and as you. All we have to do is to let that small self step aside so that that divine self, that whole mind, we're talking about that whole enlightened mind, can step forward. It's within you now. It's not something that happens someday. It happens when you step back wholly so that the wholeness can shine through. So that's it right there. We're going to keep this session just a wee bit short because we have a little bit of business to take care of here at Namaste Village. But I think, yes.
Can I just share something
Sure. Okay, so Megan is going to come up, talk nice and loud.
Those things just sort of drop into your mind. I shared before that when I was in seminary, I had to present a chapel service, and which is a way of demonstrating that I know how to present a service. And I asked a musician friend of ours if he would participate. And he said, well, tell me a little bit about what your message is, and I'll come up with a song. And he came back to me later and he said, nothing really fit. I was inspired to write an original piece of music for you. And this is the chant. I'm going to just implant it in your little mind. I know that I know that I know that I am. I know that I know that I am. I'm here to believe and I'm here to receive. I know that I know that I am.
Do it again.
I know that I know that I know that I am. I know that I know that I am. I'm here to believe and I'm here to receive. I know that I know that I am.
Once more.
I know that I know that I know that I am. I know that I know that I am. I'm here to believe and I'm here to receive. I know that I know that I am.
Wow.
That's all you need to know, right?
That's it.
I just had to share it.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. We like beautiful little chants like that getting stuck in our head. That's why I did the musical Course in Miracles lessons, because when we sing, we pray twice. When we sing, it's like going around the intellectual mind into that back door where it slips in effortlessly. So that was a beautiful chant. I think please help us to remember that so we can do that more often. And with that, we are so grateful. We're so blessed to begin our week together in this way, all of us around the world on Zoom and our beautiful family here in Ahihik, Namaste Village. So let's go out and live this now. Sound good? Yes. All right. Namaste, everyone. Let's do our final prayer of protection together. One moment. And here anytime. Why won't it? There we go. Okay. Here we go. The prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever God is, I am, and all is well. So it is. Namaste, everyone.
Happy Monday.
Have a beautiful day. All of you,
Namaste.
namaste.
Thank
Hold
you.
on.
I love
Bye-bye.
you all.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Namaste.